Was that?
Pitiful. In the beginning, it was all right, but it wore out fast because it just got tired of doing all that traveling and
Mike Tyson and Jake Paul turned out to be a huge disappointment for most boxing fans and professionals, including James "Buster" Douglas, who had predicted another routine victory for Iron Mike Tyson before the fight and thought the matchup was something original enough for the fans.
Now, everyone is talking about how staged this fight was. I do believe it was scripted, and I believe that Tyson was certainly held back. Look, I'm a fighter and I can see it. It goes on the record and it was sanctioned.
James "Buster" Douglas, the man who gave Iron Mike Tyson his very first defeat, had claimed the Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul fight was a bigger upset than his victory over Mike Tyson, not necessarily because of the results, but because of how disappointing it was for the millions who stayed up to watch the baddest man on the planet return to the ring in a scripted fight.
Was that?
Pitiful. In the beginning, it was all right, but it wore out fast because it just got tired of doing all that traveling and
To him, Mike Tyson destroying the sport he made many fall in love with is a bigger upset than the unexpected defeat he encountered in his 38th career fight. Alongside Evander Holyfield and Lennox Lewis, James "Buster" Douglas was one of Iron Mike Tyson's victors that had been so invested in the fight, as he went as far as visiting Mike Tyson in his gym months before the fight. Sadly, the end didn't justify the means, as the only things that seemed to spark interest in the fight were Tyson's training sessions. Perhaps, if his training sessions were all that was seen on fight night, fans would have found it more engaging than the shambolic display that Tyson and Jake Paul brought to the entire boxing world. On fight night, shortly before the fight between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul began, the fight script was leaked online to the disappointment of many. However, once it was discovered by the organizers, they did all they could to ensure the fight played out differently. But from the script, it was clear that the first to fifth round happened exactly as planned, and it was surely a last-minute decision to take the fight to the scorecards.
Mike? Yeah, I mean a little bit. Yeah, like there was a point where, I was just like, okay, he's not really engaging back. And so
this has aroused the fury of many boxing professionals who can't help but express how disappointed they are in Mike Tyson. Ordinarily, the matchup had drawn widespread criticism even before it took place. Many questioned Paul's decision to fight a retired Tyson who stepped away from professional boxing in 2005. With Tyson well past his prime and grappling with ongoing health issues, including an on-flight health scare earlier this year, which postponed the fight from July to November, the choice was labeled by some as opportunistic.
To watch Mike Tyson and Jake Paul?
I actually did. I actually watched it, and I felt, while watching it, I felt disgusted. Disgusted at Jake Paul for...
Despite the criticism, Paul's victory against one of boxing's all-time greats will likely add another chapter to his growing resume as a crossover boxer. Meanwhile, Tyson's loss underscores the challenges faced by aging athletes stepping back into competitive sports. Holyfield's observations highlight the physical toll that time and injuries have taken on Tyson, further fueling the debate about such mismatched bouts.
Yeah, I have, but they haven't been serious enough.
If they was serious, you're indicating that I'm not trying to click.
The fight was extremely poor and a difficult one to watch, with former world heavyweight champion Tyson looking every bit of his 58 years old. But he lasted the distance, and Paul claimed a unanimous decision win with scores of 80, 72-79, 73-79, 73. It was the first time that Iron Mike had been back in the ring since an exhibition with fellow boxing legend Roy Jones Jr. back in 2020.
For putting this together, knowing that Tyson was 58 years old. See, I'm a fighter myself, and I once tried coming back at 48 years old, and my body just shut down. So when you're gonna...
Talking about the fight being scripted, James "Buster" Douglas said, "That isn't God for Tyson. That isn't good for the sport. It's bad to be remembered as a man who tried to ruin the same sport he devoted his entire life to." Before the fight, former Mike Tyson conqueror James's Buster Douglas weighed in on the upcoming controversial clash between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, breaking down the bout and giving an opinion that not many others appear to share. Douglas shocked the world when he knocked out previously unbeaten Tyson at the Tokyo Dome in Japan in 1990 to become world heavyweight champion, heading into the bout as a 42-1 underdog.
About my eye, but I was complaining about that he was knocked out for 14 seconds. And they gave me a long count. I wasn't complaining, but it was the truth.
Nearly 35 years later, Tyson is now set to enter the ring again when he faces Paul, although an ulcer flare-up meant that the fight didn't take place as early as planned. There have been plenty of concerns from onlookers ahead of the fight, with some demanding it be canceled altogether after Tyson's medical incident forced the postponement of the fight, having originally been scheduled for July 20th. Douglas wasn't one of those who had worries for Iron Mike though, stating that he doesn't see how Paul can have any threat to Tyson. I don't think Mike fighting is risky because he's not fighting a legitimate 26-year-old contender. Paul's a young man, of course, but in the sport of boxing, he's kind of limited. The ability he has does not make him a real threat to Mike. Anything is possible in the ring, but I don't think this is too big of a risk for Mike.
Guys, 1,100, 2,202. His count was longer than mine. He's talking.
It's not like he is derelict or something like that. He's got an opportunity doing something he feels he can do, and he will put up a good showing. He's not doing something that he's not done before. And the clips I saw of him before, he's looking pretty good. Better than most of the heavyweights out there today. I think he could hold up for sure. The way they fight now, I'm sure he could handle himself. The talent pool isn't that great. They are all right, but it's not like the strong top 10 or top 20 from our day. There are a lot of weak links. Mike is going to be freaking relentless. He has no reason to hesitate. Jake needs to go out immediately and bang, let him know there's something to look out for. Otherwise, it's going to be open target season, and Mike's going to be throwing shots with no worry about what's coming back. Mike has never been worried about what's coming back at him. Why the hell would he be worried about Jake Paul? Douglas also predicted what he expects Tyson to go after in the fight, and names a big advantage that his former rival will have over Paul.
But they don't say how many seconds he got.
Right.
That referee was scared to death, like, oh my gosh. 1,100, 2,202. His count was longer than mine. He's talking.
I can see Mike going after Paul's body. Can he withstand a real body attack? I'm visualizing that once Mike gets going, he's going to overwhelm Paul. The 2-minute rounds will be to Mike's advantage for sure. Those 2 minutes will pass quickly. You can get your shots off and then recover. I think Mike will bring that intensity in those 2-minute rounds like Mike back in the day. The other advantage for Mike is that Paul isn't a major threat as far as power coming back at him. You're fighting a guy like Mike who is coming with thunder, and he's not really looking out for anything coming back. It would be different if Paul was a legitimate heavyweight with skills and ability. To conclude, he added, the best scenario for Paul is to just last the entire fight. Say he went the distance with Mike Tyson. Keep his hands up and duck those haymakers because they're going to be coming. Paul will be intimidated by those haymakers. They're like rockets. Keep moving, Paul. Don't stand in front of him. Don't stand on the train tracks. I look at it like an easy win. It will be the easiest win of his career. At 65 years old, it may be tough, but at 58, it will be a piece of cake.
Understand me? I mean, a 58-year-old going 8 rounds, I don't care if they're 2 minutes, 3 minutes. A 58-year-old going 8 rounds is out of this world, number one. Number two, there are things that probably he could have done a little bit more of, or a little bit better had he really been trying.
Roy Jones, another opponent of Iron Mike Tyson, who despite not getting to fight Iron Mike Tyson during his boxing career, was able to meet the baddest man on the planet in an exhibition fight in 2020, also expressed his disappointment about the fighter's decision to script the fight. Roy Jones Jr. was probably one of the first few boxing professionals to hint the public at how the fight was going to go after calling it a Hollywood show when he was making his final comments before the fight. Nonetheless, many thought he was speaking of something else, as they took his comments casually. And after the fight, he didn't change his stance, saying he expected everything that happened. In fact, he had advised Paul to leave boxing and head to WWE with his brother to take his fight scripting to the very next level.
Am I losing the plot a bit, thinking Mike Tyson will win this quite easily?
No, you're not. I mean, for me, man, I see the exact same way you see it. I mean, if you can't beat Tommy Fury and a guy who hasn't become a world champion yet.
Jones was on commentary for the showdown between Tyson and Paul, and he summed up in 3 words what he thought of the result. "I'm not surprised." Jones then shared his thoughts on the fight and revealed what he thinks could be next for Paul. "Everybody in the arena is just glad Tyson didn't go down. I'm not really surprised. Seeing Mike's legs, I'm not surprised at all. Jake Paul continues to go on. He'll see who he can find to make the most interesting fight with next. People like Canelo, who are not really looking for the toughest fights in the world right now, may even take that fight now. You never know."
Tomorrow, who makes the most money tomorrow? So that being said, it's kind of hard to say what's really going to happen. We think, and we actually know, that a real Mike Tyson, even at 60 years old, still destroys Jake Paul at 27, at 25, at 23.
In the build-up to Paul versus Tyson, Jones Jr. revealed his ex-rival hit him harder than anyone else from his career. Despite the American being 54 at the time, Jones Jr., who has won world titles at middleweight, super middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight, is backing Iron Mike to emerge victorious in Texas. The 55-year-old believed Paul's defeat to Tyson Fury's brother Tommy in February 2023 is proof that the problem child doesn't have the power to beat a legitimate boxer. Speaking on the latest episode of TalkSport Boxing, Jones Jr. was asked whether Tyson wins the contest, which boasts 8 two-minute rounds.
It don't matter how old he is. But when you got so much money on the table with these kind of people, sometimes we don't know what might happen, so we're just not sure. But if you tell me just straight up.
To which he said, "In my humble opinion, if Jake Paul struggled against Tommy Fury, how in the hell are you going to beat Mike Tyson?" He later added, "You can't beat Tommy Fury and a guy who hasn't been world champion. How are you going to beat Mike Tyson, who is the youngest heavyweight champion of all time?" To me, this is my opinion. I can't see that happening. Now, this is Hollywood we live in nowadays. The social media is about Hollywood. It's about what happens tomorrow, who makes the most money tomorrow.
Fighting, if they're going to go in and fight a real fight, and Mike is going to fight Jake Paul, and Mike is 58 or 59, even 59 years old, Jake Paul not beat Mike Tyson. He can't get out.
So that being said, it's hard to say what's really going to happen. But I think we actually know that a real Mike Tyson, even at 60 years old, still destroys Jake Paul at 27, at 25, or at 23, no matter how old he is. Paul went into the contest with a 10, one record inside the squared circle, with 7 of his victories coming inside the distance. With 5 knockouts coming in the first 2 rounds, there had been talks that Tyson could struggle to deal with his 27-year-old opponent's power in the opening stages.
Tyson wanting to see more action. Babota, Evander Holyfield, you get the gist.
And everybody was saying,
Land this jab right there that really knocked Jake back. But then we see
move over to your left so I can see the
right hand.
However, Jones Jr. had full belief that Tyson could handle anything Paul threw at him. As he stated, "I don't fear for Mike at all. When I fought Mike 4 years ago in round 6, 7, and 8, Mike was just as active as he was in round 1, 2, 3, because they were 2-minute rounds. So that's perfect for Mike." He continued, "I think this fight between Paul versus Tyson should fall under exhibition rules. But that being said, I still think if they go and do it the way they're supposed to do it and really fight a great fight, Jake always struggles in the late rounds." If you look at the Nate Diaz fight, Paul unanimous decision win. Jake had a hard time with Nate Diaz really after round 3.
Raises to the returning legend. Nice body shot. Paul, 12 of 53, 23%. Tyson coming up in that fight with
That mouthpiece.
Oh, left hook. Triple left hook.
Right there, and knocked Mike off balance 2 times.
As for Tyson and Douglas, despite Douglas saying this was a bigger upset, their fight remains one of the biggest upsets in boxing history. Going into the fight, Mike Tyson was the undefeated and undisputed heavyweight champion of the world and was very popular at the time. He held the WBC, WBA, and IBF titles. Despite several controversies that marred Tyson's profile at the time, such as his allegedly abusive relationship with Robin Givens, contractual battles between longtime manager Bill Caton and promoter Don King, and Tyson's departure from longtime trainer Kevin Rooney, Tyson was still dominant in the ring. He scored a 93-second knockout against Carl "The Truth" Williams in his previous fight. Most considered this fight to be a warm-up bout for Tyson before meeting up with the undefeated #1 heavyweight contender, Evander Holyfield. Tyson was viewed as such a dominant champion that he was often considered the #1 fighter in the world pound for pound, a rarity for heavyweights. Buster Douglas was ranked as the #7 heavyweight contender by Ring Magazine and had met with mixed success in his professional career up to that point. His previous title fight was against Tony Tucker in 1987, in which he was knocked out in the 10th round.
She disposed of him early. That right hand got thrown. Surprise. And we listened to over the years that, I think sometimes you get...
From the beginning of the fight, it was apparent that Douglas was not afraid. Douglas displayed a lot of spring in his body movement and was not cautious in letting his punches fly whenever he saw the opportunity to attack Tyson. He used his quick and accurate jab to prevent Tyson from getting inside where Tyson was most dangerous. When Tyson tried to get inside, Douglas tied him up, moved away, or would immediately hit Tyson with multiple punches as Tyson came within Douglas's range. Early on, Douglas was more agile than Tyson and outlanded Tyson in exchanges. Douglas finished the second round with a snappy uppercut to Tyson's chin.
Heavyweight division, because once you're talking about Octavio Moran. Oh, an uppercut got through that time by Buster. Look at that here. Well, one thing for sure, he's come to fight. Okay. Going and then catch up with him in the left.
Seeming to regain his form, Tyson landed a punishing left to the body that had Douglas look at his corner. After an ineffectual and lackluster third round, Tyson cornerman Jay Bright screamed at his fighter, "Don't just stand there and look at him, you've got to work." Boxer Sugar Ray Leonard, at ringside doing commentary for HBO, noted Douglas's dominance with the jab and right hand and said Tyson was having one of those occasional days in the ring where you just don't have it, things just don't click in.
Aaron Snowell told him in between the third and fourth round. Some pretty good hand speed. And for some reason, Mike doesn't seem to be in.
Douglas would still dominate the middle rounds, although Tyson managed to land a few of his signature uppercuts. Tyson was wobbled by a chopping right during the 5th round. Soon, Tyson's left eye began to swell from Douglas's right jabs, preventing him from seeing his opponent's punches well. Tyson's cornermen were caught unprepared. They were so confident Tyson would easily beat Douglas that they had not brought an N-swell or ice packs, usually standard equipment for a fight. Instead, they filled a latex glove with ice water and held it on Tyson's eye between rounds. Despite Tyson's inability to execute an effective fight plan, his corner continued to give him the same advice between rounds to move his head, jab his way inside, and deliver a right hand. In the 8th round, a round Douglas dominated until the last few seconds, HBO's Larry Merchant noted, "Douglas is asking Tyson some questions he hasn't been asked before. In the last few rounds of a fight, you have to come back and win it."
Oh, big right hand landed that time. Buster's, if 2, 3, or 4 is a quit, Mike, they just tied him up and it made for a lackluster fight.
Within the last 10 seconds of the 8th round, Tyson, who had been backed onto the ropes, landed a big right uppercut that sent Douglas to the canvas. Although the knockdown timekeeper began when Douglas's backside touched the ring's surface, the referee was said to have started his own count behind by 2 beats. Douglas rose as the referee signaled 9, but the bell ended the round. In obvious annoyance at his own lapse, Douglas pounded his left fist on the mat. Tyson promoter Don King would later argue the validity of the referee count in vain. In the 9th round, Tyson came out aggressively to try to end the fight and save his title, hoping that Douglas was still hurt from the knockdown.
And Mike, does that hop, skip, and a jump as the bell become a problem. Bob Sheridan here in Tokyo, Japan.
With Tyson hurt along the ropes, Douglas closed in and unleashed a 4-punch attack to try to knock Tyson out. Tyson withstood the punishment and barely survived the round. In the 10th round, Tyson pushed forward, but he was still hurting from the accumulation of punishment he had absorbed throughout the match. As Tyson advanced, Douglas measured him with a few jabs before landing an uppercut that snapped Tyson's head upward, stopping Tyson in his tracks.
Is it just another day of the shot again? He's down, he comes with the uppercut. Come on, brother, Buster's throwing shots back. Look at this.
As Tyson reeled back, Douglas immediately followed with 4 punches to the head, knocking Tyson down for the first time in his career. In a famous scene, Tyson fumbled for his mouthpiece on the canvas before sticking one end in his mouth with the other end hanging out. The champion attempted to make it back to his feet, but referee Octavio Moran counted him out. Buster Douglas thus became the new undisputed heavyweight champion, engineering one of the biggest upsets in boxing history. The official scorecards through 9 rounds were 87-86 for Tyson, 86-86, and 88-83 for Douglas. And that's all for now. For the very best updates on news, moments, events, and actions in the world of boxing, stay connected with us by subscribing to our YouTube channel. And don't forget to turn on notifications to get notified when we drop quality contents like this. Until next time, peace out.